If you're so fortunate as a copywriter or freelance marketer to have a volume of client work, meaning multiple projects due over the next couple of months, nothing beats, as far as success tools are considered, nothing beats a timeline. Hey, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. If you've been using the techniques and skills that we're teaching you about finding, creating, and keeping profitable customers, there will become a time where you'll have 3 to 4 assignments in flight. And it's possible 3 to 4 assignments per copywriter that are due on staggered time periods. So for example, you're working for a client. They've got a prospect newsletter. They've got a new quarterly sales letter that goes out. It's called a special report. They've got weekly postcard campaigns that got digested from the special report. They've got monthly lead campaigns, and you're writing all these materials. You're handling the testing. You're writing the materials in cycles. Now imagine having 3 of those customers. Now, it would be great because you'll be making more money. You'll be able to have a more stable income. You'll be able to have a better drive forward as you grow your copywriting business. But here's the challenge. If you don't have the tools in place in order to track these projects, it will be a huge, massive mess. You'll end up spending more time figuring out what project's going next or when work's going to be complete, and it will be quite a pain. But there's nothing better than a timeline. Now, you could use a project management tool like Microsoft Project or any kind of project methodology to manage these jobs. But if you can show on a timeline when work is about to complete, you get a better visualization and you can work your way into the deadlines. Now, ideally, you want to finish the work before the deadline. So the client wants to launch into quarter. You want to get them the materials ahead of that so that they can do the setup, so that you can get the opportunity to cross-sell or upsell if you do any technical work. But essentially, the reason we have a freelance copywriter to marketing consultant model is because you need to be able to handle multiple projects, and that could mean an administrative assistant. It could mean a researcher, webmaster, junior copywriter, all these people supporting your activities. And that makes it ever more important to focus on the outcomes on a specific timeline of activity. So we've talked about the schedule advisory. We've talked about callback logs. We've talked about using a central plan, kind of a project portfolio. All of these things are necessary so that you can deliver your milestones, which are projects finished to the client in a timely fashion. Now, you want to add to this a process so that when you deliver something, what are the checklists that you go through before that item's delivered, and what are the expectations you have at that particular point? Let me explain why that's important. Let's say you're writing a sales letter for a client. You've established up front all the characteristics of what goes into the sales letter, and you've also identified up front who signs off on the work. Now, why is that important? If you don't figure out who signs off on the work up front, you're going to pass that sales letter over when it's finished, and it won't be finished because 6 or 7 people are going to have inputs. There's going to be people that want to look at it and, mull over the idea. They're thinking about it. No, you need to know before the project starts, when this sales letter is done, who will be the final decision makers. That way you can get them a draft, you can get their feedback, you can incorporate their feedback and be finished with the writing assignment. See, a lot of people will teach you how to use words that sell, but you need to use this language, this copywriting language, in order to bind the customer into both expectations and agreements on how work will be delivered. Let's say you've got 2 or 3 assignments all for the end of quarter. One client has a special report, another has a sales letter, another one has a product launch, and it's all due this next quarter. Well, again, a timeline can show project assignments and their due dates, and now you can start staggering the due dates. So perhaps one client can wait a little bit on their work, or you get their work done a little bit earlier. Another client might be the holdup for getting materials, and you can say, hey, look, according to the timeline, according to my workflow here, if you don't have me this research, I'm not going to be able to finish your job till after the quarter's done. So here's what we got to do. And see, now you can get into the negotiations. Now, you could have a project manager who manages your portfolio of work, and they will make that negotiation for you. But overall, it really depends on what kind of business do you want to run. If you're a freelancer, many freelancers get stuck writing one assignment at a time. They write an assignment, then they chase for the new one, or maybe they have a newsletter that's queuing up the next one. But other copywriters end up with a project manager, and then it's no different than having a job because their damn project managers all up their back about when things are going to be done. When are you going to finish writing that? The key is to get into a command and control position around the timeline of work, and you fill in the slots. I heard Dan Kennedy talk about this. When he sits down at the beginning of the year, he sets up his work, and he has certain slots that he works out of. And that way he knows what he needs to fill to get the number of dollars he wants to earn. So you might say, well, look, I only have time for one sales letter each month. And if you either make a decision now and get in this slot, or you get into the slot 6 months from now, because that's what we have available. And if you have a process about what do you go through to create a sales letter, like what kind of research do you need? What kind of controls do you need to have on hand? What kind of ideas and concepts need to be on the table before you start writing? You can actually have your administrative assistant go get that information from a client, or you can give them a list and have them fill in the blanks. I use assessments, for example. Before somebody would engage me on a paid consultation, they complete a written assessment. The written assessment gives me the information I need to start approaching their problem. It doesn't give me a complete solution, but it gives me talking points. And then from those talking points, we do an interview, which is the paid consultation. And then if they decide to have me do a writing assignment or a process model or some kind of analyst work, we just tangent from there, depending on what their needs are. But I've got the written assessment up front. The written assessment shows me that client can talk about their particular set of work in a meaningful way. Because frankly, I've read some of these assessments and I don't understand a damn thing they're saying. And then I ask them questions they don't understand. That tells me where we need to be when it comes to their particular set of work. Now, what's exciting about all this is that you can set these processes up very easily. There's a client onboarding a setup. There's a schedule management type of process. There's other things, and you can start with what you're doing today. Now, if you're not a successful copywriter and you're struggling right now, then maybe you want to talk to somebody, because it doesn't need to be a struggle. If you're constantly waiting for the next assignment instead of rather than queuing up assignments, then that's another challenge too. But again, you go back to this timeline. Where are you today? Where do you want to be? What assignments do you have along the way? Can you handle one sales letter a month? Can you handle 10 sales letters a month? It's really up to you and your skills. But if you see that there's a gap, like every Tuesday, I do consultations. If I see I have 5 slots for consultations and 2 of the slots are available, then I need to fill those 2 slots. You assess your capacity, you assess your approach, you write it down into an operational manual, doesn't take a lot of pages, and then everybody works from that paper. You can start with an administrative assistant, you can start with freelance researchers, but you got to start. Because there are so many copywriters right now, many of them are subscribers, you know who you are, that struggle assignment to assignment, and it never seems that you're able to get the dollar amount up. And you believe that writing better copy is what's going to do it. No, having a system in place for growing a copywriting business, growing a marketing agency, producing a business development agency, you are going to the next level through a process, not through ad hoc. So again, a timeline. Go ahead and list all the assignments you have right now. Write down their due dates. Put it on a timeline. Look at the conflict. Actually, in the construction world, this is called a work in progress. You would list all your projects. You would list the estimated amount of time originally, the current date, how many hours you've put in, the number of hours that remain, and then you would try to make sure that fits on the schedule with the available resources. If you want to talk more about this as far as optimizing your business process in the business of copywriting, visit me at www.adbriefings.co.uk. Be sure to ask your questions, because there are so many of you guys out there right now struggling to get that first assignment, to keep that first assignment, and then when that second assignment comes along, it just all goes to pot. If you want to write, that's fine. But if you're not managing the workflow so that you have a nice steady stream of assignments, then you're going to spend a lot of time screwing around doing stuff other than writing. And writing, again, is not the most important thing. The most important thing is marketing of your writing services, and that itself is kind of an internal client. So you need to put that on your calendar as well, because I don't want you to be in a situation where now you're doing a lot of work, but there's nothing waiting in the queue. Anyway, again, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, where we teach you about how to write words that sell. We give you a structure for getting assignments and client work, and then I help you with the drive forward to get the results that you deserve when it comes to the business of copywriting. Thanks for listening. Visit with your questions. Hey, and be sure to like and subscribe, because I'm sure this is on YouTube and other channels as well.